Welcome back, my friends. Ark Invest has recently just announced on Friday that the new price target for Tesla is $3,000. They have given other price targets and what probability that each case falls into. With that, let's find out. Before we get started, let's roll a clip on their previous Tesla price target.
At Ark Invest have become very closely associated with one stock in particular, and that is Tesla, because you made a lot of waves by attaching a $4,000 price target to the shares at one point.
Yes, we learned about their artificial intelligence chip. We saw the specs, and our analyst, James Wang, came from NVIDIA. That's what they're replacing. And he said, oh my goodness, and he's going to write something this Wednesday about it. This leapfrogs the competition. And they're at least 3, if not 4 years ahead of the competition. And then a few months later, execution went up when not only did they not lose in the third quarter $700 million, but they made, this is cash flow, $1.4 billion. So that was a miss in terms of consensus expectations of roughly $2 billion. That's what happens with exponential growth.
As you can see, everybody was calling them crazy during 2017 when Ark released such a high price target. And after that, Ark shocked the world when Tesla was able to hit their $4,000 price target. Ark Invest's prediction has now become credible and everyone is looking towards their updated model. Ark Invest models their price target using a guiding principle called Wright's Law. So what is Wright's Law? Wright's Law aims to provide a reliable framework for forecasting cost declines as a function of cumulative production. Specifically, it states that for every cumulative doubling of units produced, costs will fall by a constant percentage. A quick summary on how Wright's Law applies to Tesla is that every doubling production of Tesla cars decreases the cost to produce a single unit. Because we learn by doing things better, and the cost of raw materials is reduced by improving technology. So, how does this apply to Tesla, and how can we use Wright's Law to predict where Tesla's price will go? We look at the cost of producing a Ford Model T internal combustion engine car back in 1900s, where it was about $5,000 in 1903 and cost only $1,000 to produce in 1909, where it was almost fivefold in cost reduction, and it took all the way to 2018 to bring it down to another fivefold to $200. As I've mentioned before, the most important component for EV is batteries.
What this means is if you have an infant technology like battery electric vehicles, and there's approximately 7 million of those on the roads today. I've got an article that's linked in the description. There were 5.6 million at the beginning of 2019, and I'm guesstimating a bit that we've got about another 1.4 million on the road since then. So to go from 7 million to 14 million is going to take a way shorter time than to go from 1 billion to 2 billion because we've only got 0.7% of the amount of cars we have to produce. So we can reduce the cost of an electric car by whatever percentage that's going to happen in, let's say, 7 million cars in another 5 years versus another 50 years for internal combustion engine cars. So there's no way an ICE car can keep up because it's mature and it's leveled out and hit that flat part of the curve, whereas battery electric vehicles are still crashing down in terms of cost. And that's the reason why everybody who's paying attention is saying battery electric vehicles are going to win out very soon, because what this does is this means this flat part of the curve for ICE cars and the really
we can see that ICE cars has pretty much peaked in terms of reducing their cost of production, whereas EV is still at its infancy. Using Wright's Law, we can project how much it will cost to make an EV. So why is this important? By understanding and predicting the cost of producing an EV, we can use the amount of cars they produce and deliver for the year, and Ark Invest will use Wright's Law to estimate the cost of production, and we can find out the profit from the car sales. So let's take a look at the worst case scenario in Ark's prediction. A 2025 bear case scenario with 25% probability of happening. So cars sold 5 million, average selling price of each car 45,000, EV revenue 234 billion, insurance 23 billion, human taxi 42 billion. Gross margin is about 40% excluding credit, EBITDA margin is 31%. So this is the bear case scenario. Price target $1,500, 1.5 trillion market cap. This is with the assumption of 60% deliveries year on year, Tesla delivering 5 million cars and no robotaxi fleet. Now, let's take a look at the best case scenario in Ark's prediction. 2025 bull, 25% probability of happening. Cars sold 10 million, average selling price 36,000. EV revenue 367 billion, insurance 6 billion. Human taxi 0, robotaxi 327 billion. Gross margin 50%, EBITDA 30%. This is the bull case scenario, $4,000, 4 trillion market cap. assumption of 82% year-on-year growth, Tesla delivering 10 million cars with a robo-taxi fleet. The average selling price is lower because it can scale massively and the cost of production will be reduced. So my own personal verdict is that regardless of a bear or bull case, the current valuation is definitely not overpriced and it has a lot more rooms to grow. So I like to invest in things that will change the world. And to me, I ask myself, what is changing the transportation industry? So what is changing the transportation industry? Electrifying all vehicles, self-driving car, robotaxi operating throughout the world, and delivery trucks that self-drive, and Tesla is all of them combined. So with that, I think that Ark Invest 3,000 price target is not a crazy after. Alright, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next week.